It's Monday, September 21st, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And let's get started with it right now with Sunday, September 20th being the official day that both TikTok and WeChat were to be banned from app stores in the U.S. Significant action was taken on both, and for now, they both remain in the stores. On the TikTok front, a deal was given tacit approval by Trump, which kept the social media app from being removed. Under the deal, software company Oracle will host all of TikTok's user data from the U.S., and Oracle will also partner with Walmart to form a group called TikTok Global, which could, in theory, allow people to shop on Walmart via TikTok. Oracle also promised to create an artificial intelligence-based education curriculum to teach kids to read, as well as history and other subjects on TikTok. There are still obstacles to this, as on paper the deal still only gives Oracle and Walmart a 20% stake, which doesn't really meet the original terms of the executive order, so who knows where this is heading, but for now it's in the store. WeChat, on the other hand, also faced reprieve this weekend, but this time it was at the hands of a court ruling in California. The ruling stated that removing WeChat, which is a hugely popular messaging and advertising platform for companies that want to reach China, would, quote, burden substantially more speech that is necessary to serve the government's significant interest in national security, unquote. He basically said that Chinese security concerns may be valid, but WeChat couldn't be identified as specifically the problem. Obviously, everything changes constantly, but with 100 million monthly users of TikTok alone in the US, this is something that can have wide-ranging implications. Follow along at digitaltrends.com. Microsoft has just upped the ante in its battle with Sony over the two companies' impending new console releases by paying out a reported $7.5 billion for software company ZeniMedia, which is the parent company of Bethesda and a number of other game developers. Bethesda, as you may remember, is the owner and creator of a few huge franchises, including Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Rage, Wolfenstein, the upcoming Starfield, just to name a few. With the purchase of Microsoft, now has 24 different video game development studios under its umbrella. They also said that Bethesda would continue to operate with its own structure and leadership in place. But beyond that, what does this mean for the console wars? Well, the new Xbox Series X and Series S consoles come out on November 10th, and Xbox has a specific pricing option where for $24.99 or $34.99 per month, you can receive an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate as part of the deal, and Bethesda's titles will go with that. So does that mean all those titles become exclusive to Microsoft and Xbox? Probably, at least for future releases, and it's all part of the game developer grab that both Microsoft and Sony are doing in order to boost their specific platforms. So we'll have to see where this all plays out, but definitely a big grab by them, and you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. YouTube has stated that they're going to reverse course and bring back more human moderators for its online content. When the pandemic started earlier this year, when humans weren't able to get into the office, YouTube decided to utilize artificial intelligence to help flag and remove content that violated its policies, such as copyright infringement or political hate speech. Since that started in March, we now have some data on how well AI was able to do. According to YouTube, 11 million videos were removed between April and June, which is twice what the normal count would be. And according to a report in the Financial Times, there were 320,000 appeals on the videos, with about 160,000 being reinstated. That means AI resulted in a lot of videos being removed that probably shouldn't have been. Bringing back regular human moderators can help out in making the decisions over whether something is satire or informational rather than provocative or inflammatory. Unfortunately, AI is not adept at determining nuance. So the results of this further reiterate how hard it is for social media platforms to monitor their content, particularly when AI and algorithms are still rife with mistakes when it comes to removing things. Obviously, there's a lot to be figured out with this, but you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. The closure of movie theaters may be delaying a whole lot of movies releases, but streaming continues on as Disney has just released a new trailer for the first of their upcoming television series for Marvel for Disney Plus, with the posting of a WandaVision trailer. So what is WandaVision about? That's the kind of confusing part. It takes place after Avengers Endgame, so it falls in line with continuity, but it appears to take place in some alternate timeline that was probably caused by the events in the movie. Regardless, it's content. Disney Plus has had its service grow to over 60 million subscribers, largely by having such things as The Mandalorian or playing the video recording of Hamilton and, of course, the MCU rights. So, where does it go from here? Well, we'll have to see. There's a lot of competition when it does come to the other streaming services that are out there, but this is certainly a big move for Disney. So, with that, we don't know the exact release date. We think it's probably going to be December, but that's kind of up in the air. However, The Mandalorian's first episode comes on October 30th, so it would make sense if WandaVision followed that up. Also on the way, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and a bunch of other ones. So at least we'll still have some Marvel content coming out while the movies are delayed. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. All right, to analyze a little bit more about this TikTok deal that is going on, there is so much that's happening with it, and that is why we've got Maya Schwader joining us right now to kind of go in depth a little bit more and really get kind of the analysis of what this means going forward. Maya, hello. A lot happening over this last weekend.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was the season finale of the TikTok drama. Let's put it that way.
For the season, but now we're waiting for season 2, I suppose. So with this, with this potential sale, is this going to actually go through? Can you kind of walk through us like what the actual ramifications of this are?
We are more or less expecting this to go through. We saw President Trump put out a statement over the weekend that he agreed in concept to the deal. This is a Trumpism that, like most Trumpisms, doesn't really have a whole lot of basis in legality, but basically it means that we are expecting him to okay what is on the table, which is that Oracle would take a small stake, Walmart would also take a small stake. User data for TikTok would now be hosted in the US as opposed to being hosted on servers partially in Virginia, partially in Singapore, as it was before. But ByteDance, the Chinese owner of TikTok, still has a majority stake in the app. What this means is that this hasn't actually accomplished a lot of what President Trump was setting out to do by forcing this sale. But the fact that he's okaying it, or at least we are expecting him to okay it at some point this week, we hope, means that it's likely going to go through. Now, what this means is that it's kind of steady as she goes for now with this app. All the creators who have made their careers on TikTok get to stay on TikTok. The employees get to keep their jobs. We all get to stay addicted to this little black square with a music note on it that's on our phones. However, we should note that historically, there are some prominent examples of when the young, hot, new app or startup gets purchased by legacy media, which is what Oracle is, and that hasn't really ended well for a lot of these young startups. Of course, we're thinking about Vine, which was purchased by Twitter. Vine is no more. Tumblr, which was purchased by Yahoo, is still around, but doesn't have as much of the social clout, the cultural cachet that it used to have. And then there's Skype, which was purchased by Microsoft. Skype was once the new hot video streaming, video conferencing app on the block. And this should have been a time for Skype to shine, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone's working from home. You and I are not talking on Skype right now, Greg. So some warning flashes about what might be in store for TikTok should this be a pattern that bears out.
Well, taking a look at this too going forward, and like you said, definitely some issues there of what could happen with TikTok, because there's plenty of competitors that are trying to latch on to some of that audience as well. So we've got this deal, potentially going forward, but TikTok has already been banned some other places as well. And so I guess just kind of seeing with this deal, is this something that people are still going to be concerned with, or is this one of those things where it just kind of happened, now the sale's going to go through, and it'll just kind of move on, and we'll all kind of forget about it?
Well, I think for the average person, your average TikTok user who maybe doesn't pay attention to tech news that much, it sort of kind of looks like there wasn't that many bumps in the road. Certainly TikTok is hoping that everything is going to be smooth sailing from here on out. But it doesn't mean they're totally out of the woods yet. We do need to keep our eyes on how Oracle starts treating TikTok when it's in the US, what sort of advantages Walmart starts taking off. I mean, there's sort of a win-win-win situation for, TikTok keeps to keep running. ByteDance keeps its majority controller stake. Oracle gets to sort of up its profile as a cloud computing service, and Walmart gets access to all the teens of America to start marketing its products. So, for your average user, they might not notice much, but for those of us who are paying attention to the tech side of things, to the policy side of things, does this deal get okayed? Sure. Okay. What does that then mean for these conflicting interests of being partially owned in the US, being partially owned in China? Who is looking at the user data? Just because the user data is now being stored in the US as opposed to being stored in Singapore doesn't mean there isn't still a government looking at the user data. It's just that now it's the US government instead of allegedly the Chinese government.
Right. So many different things to kind of figure out there and whether anything actually did change. But Maya, as always, thank you very much for providing analysis on this. I know we've got a lot of coverage at Digital Trends. It seems like every day there's something new that comes out on this. Maybe it stays this way for a while, but regardless, we'll keep you up to date there. Maya Schrader, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Maya Schrader, always great analysis here on Digital Trends Live. Appreciate that. And like I said, read all about everything that we just talked about there at digitaltrends.com. All right, coming up, we need to get to a break because we've got a great segment for Women with Drive coming up. We've got Anouk Wipprecht who's going to be joining us to talk about fashion and technology and the convergence of both. It's really interesting. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live, and welcome to Women with Drive, where we meet women who have become industry pioneers and innovators dominating their respective fields. I'm your host, Greg Nibbler. This segment is sponsored by Porsche, the new Cayenne Coupe, shaped by performance. Our guest today is an innovator in not only technology, but also in fashion. She's pushing the boundaries of both and expanding the way we think about clothing and how it can be a direct reflection of who we are with things like the Pangolin Scales Project, which uses brain-reading EEGs to accent and augment a dress to the user's mood at the time. We're joined by Anouk Wipprecht. Anouk, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey there. Thanks for the invite.
There's so much we're going to talk about, but I want to start off with talking to you about what kind of goals you set for yourself. What were those when you first ventured into the world of fashion?
I think to create a bridge between several worlds, the world of fashion, the world of technology, and also a little bit science and robotics.
So to kind of blend all of that together and find that bridge in between the two, which I can imagine is a huge challenge. You know, when you started off with that and you got into this, was there a breakthrough moment where you knew that you were actually making an impact towards that goal?
Yeah, I think like first of all, like when you're starting this field, and that was in the beginning of 2000, I think there was not too much in regards to this, really the combination of fashion and technology, and also not too many girls actually. There were just a few of us, and also technology was very big. So I think yeah, the more I just started to push my visions, which had to do with yeah, the body and translating these sort of robotic structures on the body that are connected to the body and the environment. I think yeah, at one point the time catched up with me, and around 2008, 2009, there was this really big interest in this notion of fashion and technology, which I already had been in for the last 8 to 9 years. So I think there was a lot of interest from the field, and at that point I moved to San Francisco, which is of course, yeah, Silicon Valley, like all eager to learn about new things like that. So I think that's really where I found my connection. Connecting to the city, connecting to sort of high levels of technology and thinking about that, and also understanding it. So that was for me really a point, that I really saw this connection work out almost.
Well, when you talk about that connection between all of those things, in particular fashion and technology, what are some of the obstacles you faced in your career, and what keeps you driven to go past those?
I think it's both a positive as a negative thing. The limitations with technology, there's a lot of limitations, but that's also a really cool thing because it makes you think more outside of the box. It makes you, how can I solve this? And that is where sort of my engineering mind comes out, that wants to solve that. And I think that's really the joy for me working with electronics and working with technology, that there's so much that is not discovered yet that we can all discover. There's so much like love to that from my side. The way you can tinker, the way you can just create with technology. I think that's very valuable.
Well, talking about the technological side of things, and in particular, I wanted to ask about the Pangolin Scales project, and I wonder if maybe you could give us just a little bit of background on what that is and where it is that you took inspiration from when creating it.
Yeah, for sure. So the Pangolin Skills dress is based on a sort of a headset, which is called a BCI, so a brain-computer interface. So that is working with EEG and working with brain signals. So the headset on the head has 1,024 channels, and all those channels are corresponding to the dress. So basically, the BCI, the interface is taking the brain signals and then translates that to the dress. So the dress becomes a data visualizer almost from what happens inside of your head. So you can see all these sensors, all the PCBs. There's 64 PCBs on her head of the model, and each PCB has 16 channels. So that makes 1,024 channels in this case. And it was a collaboration between me and GTech in Linz, and also the University of Linz, Johannes Kepler University. And together we created this art meets science project together almost, And the dress was there to visualize these brain signals.
I love this convergence of all of this technology. It seems so futuristic, but obviously you're able to do this now with the tech where we're at. And thinking about it in that line of things, where do you see the use case of artificial intelligence and like brain-machine interfaces changing the way we interact with the world going forward?
Yeah, I think like in regards to like the field of neuroscience, there's a lot that we already explored. There's a lot that we haven't explored yet. And I think like creating these really high resolution brain interfaces and all the stuff that is going on at the moment in regards to neuroscience and neurotechnology, that is really broadening much more of the notion of what we know about the brain. There's still so much undiscovered about the brain that we don't know yet, that we can actually examine through the use of, for example, these BCI, so the brain-computer interfaces, and then you can think of the way we feel. You can think of, for example, operations if there's a tumor, just the resolution that we can work with using like new technologies like this. It's remarkable, So that's really opening up, sort of this notion of knowing more about the brain than we do now.
I love this convergence of so many different things. I know I keep saying that, but it's just so fascinating what you're doing. Something to ask you, though, being an innovator and a creator and a pioneer really in this field, what is one piece of tech that you use the most every day?
Ooh, I think microcontrollers. Otherwise, those are basically the sort of the heartbeats and the brains of my robot. So without those pieces of without those pieces, the science would not come alive, sort of, So the microcontroller is really the heartbeat, and basically any technology, any sensors. Sensors are really important to understand the environment, but also the body. So the stress of the body, or working with brain signals or muscle contraction or the heart rate, there's just really interesting things that you can do and that you can look at, for example, reading emotions and doing something with that, because these designs can express you like fashion does, but it expresses you digitally almost, And I think that is really the joy about working with design like this in the field of fashion tech.
That is fascinating. I can tell you no one's ever answered that question on this show before with microcontrollers. That shows how far advanced you are versus people who just say it's an app on their phone. But going to this, and being in your field, and just something that you mentioned at the beginning was that, there weren't a lot of women in this space, especially when you started. And I wondered for other, women out there, maybe young women in particular, who are looking to get into the tech space, what advice would you have for them?
Be supported, support each other, learn from each other. I think, it's not a competitive field, and that is something that we're really strongly working on. We share our ideas, we share our knowledge, and we really try to push this field together, So I think working, if you are not used to working with electronics, buy an Arduino or buy a Raspberry Pi and start to program, start to solder some things up, making some things blink and bleep up and whatever you want to do, I think innovation is all about curiosity. So the more curious you are for whatever you want to explore, the more you are determined to do so almost.
Well, Anouk, what you are doing is so cool. I just want to say that, and obviously groundbreaking on so many different levels as well. And I want for people out there who want to learn more about all of your projects and everything you're doing, where would you recommend they go?
You can shoot me an email if you want to know how to get started with all of this. Sort of, you can check out my Instagram, my website, which you can see here underneath. If you want to know more, get in contact, and I will try to help you in between my schedule.
Well, Anouk, thank you very much for taking some time in your schedule to talk to us. Really, really appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live.
For sure.
Anouk Wipprecht right here. That is really, really cool. That's cutting edge technology right there, what she's being able to do with all of that. So fascinating to follow along. And thanks everybody for joining us. We've got some more coming up next. We've got Drew Prindle with awesome tech you can't buy yet. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hey, welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and did I mention the live part? Well, because of that, sometimes tech issues come up, so we will have Drew Prindle on for another time for awesome tech you can't buy yet, but still, nonetheless, we've had a pretty amazing show today. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, and that's a reminder as well that you can hit subscribe. Whatever platform you're on, you'll get the notifications when we go live. You can follow along with all the news that we have, all the interviews, and great things that we had even today. Coming up tomorrow, we've got Julia Landauer. So she is a NASCAR driver, a racing champion, a motivational speaker, and a STEM advocate. So I'm pretty excited about that interview. That's going to be on tomorrow's show, along with everything else that we have, because each day we bring you something brand new. So hit subscribe. Join us here for this show. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.